This morning, Dr. Arthur Potts, lecturer at the University of Trinidad and Tobago, joins us to discuss the changing face of higher education. Good morning, Dr. Potts, and welcome.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you with us on this show today. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing reasonably well. Thank you.
Well, excellent. It's good to hear that. And thank you, of course, for your honesty. I love that. Reasonably well. So let's get let's get straight into the discussion. Repeating Form 5, going to sixth form, or heading straight to tertiary. When are these options necessary, and what do we need to review and really take into consideration in these circumstances?
Usually, a student goes to school for those 4 to 5 years, getting ready to get that O-level CXE. Sometimes they don't do as well in terms of the grades they want to get. Sometimes they actually get subjects enough, the 5 subjects, but they probably got lower grades, and they probably may have ambition of wanting to go on to tertiary education, and they feel like they did not learn enough, and maybe they'll want to repeat under those conditions. On the other hand, some students probably just didn't get the subjects, and therefore they really do need to repeat, because the way things are these days, even to get a simple job in the society, people ask at least students to provide some kind of proof that they have literacy and numeracy skills, and that is normally evident by probably passing 2 or 3 O-levels. Specifically, they ask sometimes for math and English. So sometimes there is the need to repeat and get the O-levels done for as simple as that. But of course, to move on in life, they must have those foundations courses covered. So the O-level may very well be required to be repeated, I think.
You know, Dr. Potts, in addition to some of the things that you mentioned, one of the things that we've also seen is some parents, when they're not satisfied with the results that their children would have received, even with what is described or acknowledged as a pass, they send their children back to repeat the subject. What are your thoughts on that?
I do not fully subscribe to it, because I'm convinced that sometimes the students do as best they could on the days of the exams. They would have gone through that rigor of being trained and follow a particular syllabus and complete all aspects of the syllabus. But maybe on the day of the exam, they would probably not get the kind of questions that they're much familiar with or they're best at, or they may make slight mistakes. So sometimes they don't end up with that grade 1, but they may end up with a grade 2 or grade 3. And many times our parents try to live their life again through their children, and they make those determinations as to whether the child should go back to school or not. Whereas on many occasions, if you give that child that opportunity to move on to tertiary education or to some other particular type of endeavor, maybe the world of work, they might be very much surprised that the child will probably grow and mature and develop in ways that would probably make them even more competent at the next level of their endeavor, be it or maybe even be it work.
Dr. Potts, are you still with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay, excellent. Now, one of the things you would have mentioned would have been growth and development and also competency. And we have seen a rise recently when it comes to those students who are pre-Form 5, sometimes Form 1, Form 2, etc., who are excelling when it comes to CXE. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a good and an interesting aspect. I see it much more these days, where parents give their students an opportunity to take on the O-levels and to actually do it. At 4th form, they attempt 2 or 3 subjects. In fact, my own granddaughter attempted that recently, and her reasons and her father's reasons was more to give her an opportunity to see what the exam conditions were, and for her to get rid of any sort of pre-anxiety or stress that she may probably have about examination itself. And sometimes the students go there and do generally well, and at least they may very well get a B grade, and then so by the time they get into they're actually here to do their O-levels, they may be much better prepared, more confident, and you might be very much surprised that they'll do the best that they can. In fact, the other way around as well is that we might notice that we may be keeping our students to do their O-levels at 16 and 17 when they finish down here. But sometimes we hear from foreign environments where students get bachelor's degree at 14 and 15, sometimes people are able to recognize the genius in their children at early ages, and they allow them to continue to do their work at the stages at which they develop academically. So in that way, you might be surprised that the student can very well do the work at a slightly younger age and get it done in fourth form and may be able to get through university programs at an earlier age.
Now, Dr.
So
Potts,
I'm in support of students who have an opportunity to do that.
Excellent. Dr. Potts, as you would have just mentioned there, those who excel at a younger age and then go on to attain bachelor's, master's, and so much more. What about in Trinidad and Tobago? Do we have the space to facilitate that with our students who are excelling?
I think we do. However, it is not an area that has been very much encouraged in Trinidad and Tobago. We somehow allow our children to grow and develop in the stages that we have already had predetermined from a very long time. So students go through their first, second, fourth, all the way up to fifth form, get their O levels, and then they move on either as maybe to E levels, or of course, or they go on to do 2-year diplomas and so on to prepare themselves for additional training.
Excellent. Now let's go to a different facet when it comes to higher education and that break in between. Some refer to it as a gap year going out into the world of work, which you would have alluded to earlier. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes.
And again, do we have that space in Trinidad and Tobago?
Yes, I think we do. And I think it's a good idea. Sometimes students, they grow up, in fact, in Trinidad and Tobago, we grow up generally sheltered. They're very much taken care of by our parents. Our students don't do much of any kind of work unless parents probably have a shop and the child may come home and may assist in the shop and so on and get a little sense of dealing with work and commerce. But in general, we go to school and then we come back home and then we just keep doing school again. Some students have no experience at all, no exposure to determine whether the world of work is something that they start thinking of. And maybe some of them given that 1 year break and getting involved in some kind of work, it gives them an opportunity to grow and develop that kind of maturity and have a sense of money and why money is needed to be earned and how the parents really do things. So, and sometimes when they come back to school, there's a different sense that says, I know why I'm doing this and I have a purpose that makes me drive towards a particular, we might call a particular discipline in life.
Yes, definitely. Now, as we speak about transitioning into the world of work, of course, some have the opportunity to transition abroad for education. And one of the things that has also become a point of conversation is the necessity of CXC, especially with SATs. What are your thoughts on that? And could you provide any guidance for those parents who are contemplating that option as to what route they should choose?
Getting the O levels, the CXCs in our system is important. That is our initial high school qualification. In the North American system, the students get the high school diploma after they go all the way up to the 12th grade. It is very much the equivalent of our 5 years at high school and getting the O-level equivalent. Students who matriculate in our system and go into their system at the same stage continue to do very well, and therefore it is sort of a straightforward equivalency. So the SAT, on the other hand, allows the students to sort of get a test in a kind of worldwide environment. Our students could compare with the American students because when you get that SAT score, it's an entrance kind of exam that determines whether the student would have been properly prepared for tertiary level. And on many occasions, our students do very well. And when they continue up there, they go into that 4-year system where they go through the freshman, sophomore, junior, and then senior year. Quite different from our 3-year approach, where we have students do 2 more years in sixth form and then 3 years at the degree, at which stage students, by the time they finish with the bachelor's degree, they'd have completed a similar type of approach, but different, of course. I think it works. But lots of our students who go abroad continue to do well.
It definitely does work. Now, Dr. Potts, we've spoken about the younger generation coming up, pre-Form 5 and excelling, but let's speak about changing the face of higher education from a mature entry perspective. One thing, of course, that definitely permeates now and is everywhere is it's never too late to get a degree. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, there's an old adage where they say it's never too young to earn, and one is also never too old to learn. And many persons, at least I guess back in my generation, didn't have access to tertiary education. Lots of times you get the 5 O-levels and more, and people were already excited that you're properly well qualified to continue in your life and literally get involved in the world of work and family life and so on. But within recent times, what we are noticing, and citizens in Trinidad and Tobago who would have missed that opportunity to go on to tertiary education, as they mature and as they become more settled in their own life, they look back and they say, you know, this is something I could have done. I did look at my young children, I get them through college. I could still do this. I want to do it for myself. And the opportunities are there. We have so many institutions now in Trinidad and Tobago. My own institution, UDT, that offers a number of pathways that people could come in, even in a mature state, and they probably can start off initially. And if they had shortage of O-levels to start with, there are programs that allow you to get matriculated to that level, right? And we have that we call PUP or whatever at UDT. I think Costa had one called Compass, and there are other programs like that allow persons who might have 2 or 3 O-levels and did not complete high school to finish that. And then you have certificate programs. So when they do the certificate programs and they build that confidence and they realize, I could do this. And then sometimes somebody didn't stop at the 1-year certificate program. They say, you know what, the certificate program actually prepares you to go into the diploma program. And then they go on to do the 2-year program and they say, hey, I did well. The next thing now, this is 2 years done. If I do a 2+2, I can get my bachelor's degree. And sometimes mature students continue to do that, get their bachelor's degree, and within recent times, there's so many options where people do 1-year programs online and get their masters and so on. A lot of adults and mature persons, parents of students who turn into young professionals are now finding their parents getting that opportunity, and they're doing very well.
Excellent. Well, Dr. Potts, you went straight into my next question, which was, as your experience, do you see many people in Trinidad and Tobago really taking this up, especially with so many options and pathways that are offered? So thank you so much. Yes. Dr. Potts, do you have any closing comments for Trinidad and Tobago on the changing face of higher education?
I just want to tell people to continue to support their children in school. They may not always get that A or the 1s in the CXCs and so on, but the 2s and 3s are pass grades. Encourage them. Some students learn at different stages and at a different pace. So you need to encourage your child, support them, be there for them. They will grow and they will develop and they will mature and they'll become not just the type of student you want them to be, but the type of young adults and the adults you want them to be in life, and become productive citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, which is really what we want. We want to develop young, good citizens, and we could do that such that we could have them mentally, physically, and morally prepared to work well in this society. So continue to encourage your students and adults. If you did not have the time to do the degree when you were young, and you have the time now, there's so many options. So grab the opportunity and continue to learn. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Dr. Potts, for joining us. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Arthur Potts, lecturer at the University of Trinidad and Tobago, speaking about the changing face of higher education in Trinidad and Tobago. Stay tuned. The Now Morning Show is going to be back right after this break.